If you were online in the mid-2000s, you remember the ritual. Pick a song that auto-plays, choose a glitter background, and obsess over who made your top 8. MySpace was not just a website. It was social status with a comment section. And removing someone from your top 8 was basically a public breakup. Bands built careers there. Fans discovered artists before Spotify existed. For a few years, the internet's coolest party lived on one chaotic homepage. Then it vanished from relevance so fast that younger viewers treat it like a myth, a billion-dollar social network that ruled America and still lost. When it collapsed, everyone had the same villain ready. Facebook showed up, design got cleaner, and MySpace became a punchline. And yes, Facebook mattered. But if that is the whole story, you are missing the part that actually killed them. They sold the future to a media giant before the peak even arrived. This is how MySpace invented the social profile as we know it, became the most visited site in America, and still handed the crown to Facebook. I got the graphs and the acquisition price that went from $580 million to $35. Let's rewind. MySpace launches in 2003 in Los Angeles. Not from a dorm room like Facebook, but from the intersection of tech and the music scene. Tom Anderson and Chris DeWolfe build it inside Intermix Media with a simple bet. People do not just want to read the web, they want to perform on it. Friendster existed, but it felt slow and fussy. MySpace copied the friend graph idea and then removed the brakes. Customization over caution. Profiles could be edited with raw HTML. Neon backgrounds. Cursor trails. A song that blasted when someone opened your page, whether they wanted it or not. Musicians loved it immediately. You could upload tracks, build a fan list, and tour through comments instead of radio. Perfect for the MySpace generation. And everyone started with the same first friend, Tom, the co-founder whose profile photo became one of the most viewed images on the early internet. Growth was explosive because the product spread like gossip. You joined to see someone's page, stayed to rebuild your identity every weekend. Every profile was a billboard. Every top 8 update was drama. Every band comment thread was free marketing, the viral loop before anyone called it that. By mid-2006, MySpace briefly passed even Google as the most visited website in the United States. Roughly 76 million unique visitors in 1 month. Read that again. Not a social app on a phone. The entire US internet and a homepage with the messy backgrounds was number 1. Arctic Monkeys, Lily Allen, Sean Kingston. Artists broke through because fans shared links faster than labels could schedule radio. MySpace did not just reflect youth culture. It shaped how a generation dressed, flirted, fought, and announced relationships in public. Registered users blew past 100 million. Advertisers saw a young, engaged audience, and media companies saw the next MTV. Brand dollars poured in. MySpace looked like the company that would own social before anyone agreed what social was worth. Meanwhile, at Harvard, Facebook was still mostly colleges, a closed garden with real names and no glitter bombs on the homepage. In 2005, if you asked who wins social, the smart money said MySpace. They had the users, the music, and the chaos that felt like the internet. Which is exactly when Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation showed up with a checkbook and a plan to turn profiles into profit. Bulletins with a status update before status updates. Short posts on your page that kept friends checking back every few hours. Comment threads turned strangers into regulars. Bands replied to fans. Drama unfolded in public. Engagement was messy and addictive. Scene kids, skaters, promoters, club photographers. Subcultures that used to stay local suddenly had a national stage with a search bar. Hollywood noticed. Movie studios ran profiles. Premieres leaked photos. MySpace sat at the crossroads of entertainment and user-generated chaos. News Corp buys MySpace for about $580 million, one of the landmark deals of the Web 2.0 era. On day one, that price looked bold. In hindsight, it was also a warning. Old media buying youth culture often speeds up the clock, not slows it. Monetization got aggressive. More ads, more placements, more pressure to squeeze revenue out of pages that users were already customizing into chaos. Spammers love MySpace. Fake profiles, shady links, comment bots. The open Wild West vibe that attracted teens also attracted abuse at scale. Pages loaded like a GeoCities fever dream. Heavy songs, huge images, broken layouts. Fun until your feed felt like a digital yard sale. News stories about predators and underage users scared parents. Fair or not, the brand started picking up a reputation risk bigger companies run from. Under News Corp, product decisions slowed. Facebook iterated like a startup. MySpace started behaving like a division inside a media empire. Facebook's user curve was compounding, still smaller than MySpace at first, but climbing with the kind of slope that makes incumbents nervous. Here is the twist people forget. MySpace did not lose because teens stopped wanting attention. They lost because attention moved to a cleaner stage. Facebook looked boring on purpose. White background, real names, one layout, and boring turned out to be easier to use every single day. MySpace also fought wars on too many fronts: music, video, messaging, games, without nailing the one habit Facebook owned: show up, scroll, react. Quarterly pressure from a parent company rewards short-term ad experiments over long-term product coherence. Deadly when your rival ships weekly. In September 2006, Facebook opens to everyone, not just college emails, and the growth restriction that kept it small disappears overnight. Then comes the news feed, one stream of updates instead of hunting through profiles. It sounds obvious now, then it felt like cheating. Photo tagging, event invites, groups that actually worked. Facebook stacked small features into a habit loop MySpace never matched. The migration did not happen in 1 week. It happened in one school, then one friend group, until your top 8 was a ghost town. MySpace tried redesign after redesign, including an infamous 2010 relaunch that confused existing users instead of winning new ones. Founders and early executives left. Engineers followed. When the people who understand the product exit, the roadmap becomes panic. Traffic peaked in 2006 and then bent downward. Not a cliff, but the kind of slow bleed that is worse because you keep telling yourself it will stabilize. Google also mattered. People stopped typing myspace.com and started searching for people and bands directly, skipping the social middleman. By 2011, the company that sold for $580 million could not sell itself as the future anymore, only as a fire sale. Remember that visitor chart from Act 2 that stopped at the peak? Here is the full curve, from America's homepage to a footnote. And here is the line that replaced it. Facebook crossing into hundreds of millions while MySpace was still arguing about layout. News Corp sells MySpace for a reported $35 million, a fraction of what it paid 6 years earlier. Buyers included specific media and Justin Timberlake, a headline that sounded like a comeback and mostly became a meme. Mass layoffs followed. Offices emptied. The product pivoted toward music and media, but the social graph had already moved on. Years later, MySpace admitted it lost a huge chunk of uploaded music during a server migration, erasing part of its own cultural archive. For users, that felt personal: demos, band pages, teenage photos, gone not with a bankruptcy filing, but with a back-end mistake. MySpace still exists in a narrow form, but the mainstream social role is over, won by Facebook, then Instagram, then TikTok in the same lane. The cruel irony: MySpace pioneered the idea that your online identity is the product, and then watch someone else monetize it better. The smartphone wave made messy desktop profiles feel ancient. Facebook's app was not perfect, but it was there when the audience moved to pockets. Every influencer economy, every parasocial comments section, every performative profile, MySpace wrote the first draft. Lesson 1. Customization is fun until consistency wins. Users eventually vote for the platform that feels fastest, not the one that feels loudest. Lesson 2. Selling early to a media conglomerate can fund the present and mortgage the future, especially when product speed is the weapon. And Lesson 3. If you host a generation's memories, back-end discipline is brand trust. Lose the data, lose the story. If you still remember your first MySpace song, drop in the comments. Yes, I am asking you to date yourself on purpose. And if you want more stories about companies that looked unbeatable until they were not, subscribe. The next decline is already loading.